Rick thought I might be interested in some cases. What I found was way more interesting than that. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. So this time we're over on Live Auctioneers, in what they call the Dixon's Crumpton auction. So Rick said something about cases, but then I saw this Black Beauty on here, simply labeled as Gibson Les Paul Custom Black Beauty Guitar. Estimate of $10,000 to $15,000, but something's not quite right here. It's already bid up to $16,000. I click on this, I zoom in, and I go, weird custom-made black. Okay, that's not usually the style of Bigsby you see Gibson use. Is this like some sort of a 90s weird reissue or something that's been modified? And then I see the headstock. No, that's real 50s vintage, which I was just absolutely shocked by because their estimate is just way off. Now apparently this is an aftermarket Bigsby. If you took the custom-made plaque off, you'll actually see the stop bar studs. Apparently the bridge had to be moved. It's got issues. It's not looking like you probably have the original pickups. But still, this could be a very solid player's grade guitar because it's got all the right age to it. And you kind of have Jimmy Page-like vibes. But oh wow, I stand corrected. The wiring and pickups do look good to me, but I think that's what threw me off. It looks like somebody might have replaced the pickup covers at one point in time. So that's why they look so new. I'd assume that would at least get bid up to $40,000, but we'll have to find out because there's a lot of people watching that one. Next up here, we have an 80s Moderne in the uncommon ebony finish. A long time ago, a viewer of the show actually brought not only a black and a white one, but also a natural so I could document these because I've just never really been a big fan of the Moderne. So because of that, whenever an ebony one shows up that's in pretty clean shape, I always have to look at it. So it looks like this one could use a little bit of a cleaning up, but other than that, it doesn't appear to be in too bad a condition. All right, we got a couple of dings on the headstock, but at least our Gibson logo hasn't been torn up. But we got a late serial number, E series. And okay, I take back my good condition statement. I'd like to believe it was one of those old school capos and it just happened to scratch the neck. And it doesn't look like the truss rod protruding out the back of the neck because sometimes if you see a straight crack down the middle of your neck back here, you do need to worry about that. That just looks like some unfortunate scratching. But so far, I'm loving this auction house. They actually take the time to take photos. I actually feel like I know what I'm buying. Their estimate is way too conservative on that though. I would say on a bad day, $4,500 would be the minimum. I always love these 65 Melody Makers. I highly suggest them if you're just looking for a great bedroom guitar. They're not as expensive as the SGs of the era, but they look reminiscent. They have like the exact same style finish on them, and they rock when you replace the original pickup anyways. And they tend to age in the most beautiful ways, like finish checking everywhere. Looks like this one needs a fret polish and a conditioning to the fretboard, but they're true Brazilian rosewood fretboards on these things too. I mean, you're paying custom shop prices 10 grand plus for brass boards when you could get one of these Melody Makers for like $2,000. So this one, I think they're just about right on. Once you add in the buyer's premium, it should bid towards the top end of that. But I really wanted to look into this. It said Gibson Les Paul Standard in red. However, from far away here, I see a big headstock and P90 pickups. I'm really hoping this is a Rocket Red Sparkle Deluxe with some modified parts. Zooming in here though, that headstock almost looks a little bit wonky. Tuners have likely been replaced. It's looking like the Bigsby's not original because you can see some sort of a filled-in stud right there. I think we kind of knew that. Got speed knobs, but this does not appear to be a Sparkle Red Deluxe. But it doesn't look to be wine red either. We got some nastiness going on over here. And now we get to the back of the headstock. Okay, that's why this thing looks weird. That is not the original finish. I was gonna say, unless it's like a early 80s Les Paul Deluxe with a Ferrari red finish, to me that looks like a mid to late 70s Deluxe that's been refinished and played with. So I'd say somewhere around $1,800 you could probably have fun with that. Because that's the problem with refinished guitars, you don't know what's hiding under that. There could be a headstock repair. Here's a cool 68 Firebird, dual P90 version. I've never been a big fan of this particular body style, but I do need to try one. Just because you never know until you do. But that seems like a pretty low estimate. That one's gonna get bid up. Ooh, a VSG. You always gotta keep your eye out for really nice examples of these, because mostly everything that's on the market is just way too beat up. So to find a clean one or like an early prototype or something would be pretty cool. Or even one that has unusually crazy wood grain. Sometimes you can find some cool walnut bodies. So far, this one actually looks pretty decent. Like it's not mint condition, but it's got nice wood grain, original pickups yet. That's another thing that's getting harder and harder to find, because these were once so cheap that people would rip out the expensive pickups, sell them separately, and then sell them off on the open market for the husk's value. That's a nice example if you've been looking for one, and even has a case. Depending on how many people are at this auction, they might get that, but I think they're a little bit overzealous on that. I think they would be pretty lucky to get a 15 bid. But what's going on here? 85 Flying V Heritage? That's way too late and way too low. So these Heritage Flying Vs, it was only literally like 2 years ago, you could buy these early 80s ones for like between $5,000 and $8,000. Then Gibson came out with the $10,000 Korina ones, and everybody's like, hey, how about we all start asking $10,000 to $15,000? And I don't know if they're selling or not, but that's what people are asking because it makes sense. So these have seen a huge spike in value lately, so this is one of those in another rare ebony finish, just like the Moderne we were talking about. I mean, in my opinion, if you're gonna buy a Korina guitar, you might as well be able to see the wood grain. But this one more so appeals to a collector who wants one of every color. And there we go, G serial number, so that's very late. And we've got a regular Gibson Flying V case. Needless to say, that'll probably sell for at least $8,000 would be my guess. Looks like this guy even had a double neck that he apparently never played. It still has the sticker on the pick guard. And that's not just a sticker, that's actually the film protecting the entire pick guard. But to be fair, most double necks don't really see much use. There's a limited handful of people that actually gig these things. And it's not quite the Jimmy Page setup because his were set back a little bit further. But we've got like the prehistoric era logos of Gibson when they were first trying to look vintage spec'd, but now they just kind of look strange. Wow, that serial number is just kind of strange in its own right. Very bold and widely spaced. 1991. That's a pretty cool piece. I bet they'll at least get it bid up to $5,000. But hey, here's those cases you wanted me to check out. Nice, a 90s era Flying V case. It's kind of odd they put all the work in for the guitars, but the cases, they don't show you the interior. Like, does it still have the case shroud? I would happily buy it for $50. What is this worth on the open market? Probably between $300 and $500. Now we've got a custom art historic case, so that's gonna put you somewhere in the 90s to the early 2000s. Depending on its condition, would be very similar in value to that last one. Looks like they got 2 of those there. And then this looks like maybe an ES-175 case. I'm not entirely too sure. So he wasn't wrong. I am interested in those cases. It just depends how crazy the bids go. But we've also got a clock here. That looks like a pretty sizable clock. I'm curious, is that real mother of pearl in there, or is that a photo of mother of pearl and then they put it in there? Because that would be a sweet clock if that was real. Oh, and by the way, this is part 3, so apparently we've missed 2 other parts of other good stuff. So that's all the Gibsons, but he's got a whole bunch of Fenders here. Looks like we've got a 60 Jaguar, some Jazzmasters. Here's a nice set, the Paisley Telecasters. This looks like the made in Japan version. So we got the blue one, as well as the pink one. That might be nice to pick up as a set. I like to document a vintage Paisley Tele. I think they're really fascinating and cool, and how they have their own lore behind them. Same thing with like an original Rosewood Telecaster. I don't currently collect vintage Fenders because that's just not what I specialize in, but you never say never. This is kind of an interesting color for an Eric Clapton Stratocaster. It's like a dark maroonish red from 1989. Oh wow, it's even got the anodized pickguard on it. Fender lace sensor pickups. This appears to be in really clean shape as well. That could be a good one for a Fender collector. Now how on earth did he get this? A Mars exclusive Stratocaster. This guy must have a rocket ship. Nah, I'm sure that was like Mars, the music store. But that is kind of funny. It's got a beautiful matching headstock to it, and wow, nice figuring in the neck. That is not a bad example at all. Keep your eye on that one, that's for sure. Apparently they only made 75 of them. But what is that? A 1993 Telesonic. That's interesting. It's like Gretsch pickups in a Telecaster. I like it. I would review that model. That looks like fun. He's got one of these Walnut Strats. I've got one of these in on consignment currently, if anybody's interested in one. I'm not a big fan of these guitars, but that's just me. They do have a very interesting place in Fender history though. But ooh, this one has like some sort of a lacquer peeling effect going on the headstock. That's an insanely low estimate on that. You don't see these every day. A Buck Owens signature Telecaster. Red, sparkle white, and blue. Somebody was asking me to look for one of these, but unfortunately I don't remember who. So if that was you, here you go. I hope you win the auction. If you're international, I have my forwarding service. As far as Telecasters go and patriotism, yeah, it's pretty cool. and crafted in Japan. Got a 65 Telecaster here. The body shape doesn't quite look right. Possible it was refinished and they sanded it down a bit too much. Maybe it was an unflattering photo angle. Maybe it's a really rare model I'm not familiar with. But even the auctioneers are saying the finish probably isn't original. So unless you know your Fender history, probably best not to bid on that one. And ooh, 64 Coronet in olive green. Tell me this is a Silver Fox. Yes, it is. I want one of these. I know I just said I focus on Gibsons, but the old Epiphones, they have a charm to them as well. And the Silver Fox finish is just beautiful. I love the way it ages. But hey, check this out, one of the original Epiphone map guitars. Who really wants to own a map guitar unless A, you're a guitar store and you just want to have it up on the wall because it's cool and it generates attraction, or B, you have like some sort of a guitar museum. Very limited buyer pool for these. I'm happy to say my journey's over. I don't need to buy any more map guitars. Let's just say the next patriotic holiday that we eventually have will be a pretty good episode. So I'm just waiting for whenever that might be. But something strange going on the side of the neck of this one. Is that just really dirty maple or did something happen? Looks like this guy was a very well-rounded collector. He even had a PRS here. Because a lot of times these auctions are just a big combination of a whole bunch of people consigning things together, but they actually put on their thing that most of this just came from one guy's collection. This is his estate. There's very few pieced in things. So that's a nice 10 top. Check this out, a prototype PRS from 1990 called the EG3, 3 slanted single coils. Is this like the Silver Sky before the Silver Sky was a Silver Sky? I really like that metallic bluish purple finish though, that's nice. Whenever there's a guitar auction, you always see one of these mellow bars at it. But I think this is the first time I've seen a good photo that shows how strange they are. I think the first time I seen one of these was actually the David Gilmour auction before I fully understood what was going on with it. Speaking of which, if you want to learn the stories of all the guitars in David Gilmour's collection that he auctioned off a couple of years ago, here's a 2-hour video that took me weeks to make. Fun fact, that video actually performed very terribly at first, but it eventually gained an audience later on. Here's a good example of, I'm specialized in a very certain thing. If I would see a Valeno 1971 chrome guitar, I would have never have guessed it would estimate between there. I don't know anything about these, but we can appreciate it together as some sort of a strange aluminum guitar. But if you're interested in checking out an aluminum guitar, we did document a Roswell Rhoads strange aluminum flying V UFO shaped guitar in this episode because a friendly viewer of the show sent it in for Halloween one year. Then it looks like he's got a whole bunch of different amps if that's your kind of thing, including some custom PRS ones. And ooh, what year's that? It's been a while since I've researched those because I've always wanted a 64 Deluxe reverb and I bought it. It was like minty condition. It was perfect, but it got destroyed on the shipping trip to me. So that's why I use a custom shop hand wound reissue if I want to use a Deluxe. But all right, troglodytes, there's a whole bunch of other guitars. You can check them out if you want on liveauctioneers.com. But that is going to do it for our little adventure together tonight. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day. And you might even enjoy this next one.